One of the commonly asked questions we get in the shop from new owners of their TKX transmission or any other TREMEC transmission is that TREMEC ships the transmissions with this rubber plug in the back end. It's done for two reasons. One is to keep any dust and dirt from migrating into the transmission during shipment, and any oil that is residually in the transmission from coming out. TREMEC makes a recommendation to push this plug in. It has splines to it. However, we find it very, very difficult to do so. So we always recommend removing it and retaining it, keeping it as a tool in a toolbox. You can use duck bill pliers to remove it. I have a pair of needle nose. It's important that we make sure that we're not touching the seal here, and we can give this a little tug and keep working this out until we have removed the plug from the transmission. Again, making sure that we are not touching the original seal and damaging it. So I make sure that I'm pulling back, grab a holding of the plug, and we just keep working at it a little at a time, and it will eventually work its way out. This little plug can be used again and again in the future on any 31 spline. In this particular case here, again, making sure that I'm not touching the seal and just giving that a plug. And as you can see, it's about 1.25 inches, 1.5 inches long. It has, in this case, not a lot of lubricant, which makes it difficult to move. It's rubber on rubber when it gets in there. There is some splines to it, you can see. And the idea, again, behind this is to keep the transmission clean. If the transmission had been partially pre-filled, it would keep the oil in the transmission at the same time. I find this a neat tool. If you go to the racetrack, for any reason you have to move the drive shaft from the car, you can just pop this in. I recommend lubricating it with some light grease to make this a serviceable piece, and, you know, again, keeping it handy. Earlier in the video, we actually showed the two transmissions next to each other. We had the Muncie 4-speed next to the new TKX transmission. And one of the things that I didn't speak in more detail of was the unique side shifting modification that we made to the transmission. For 64 through 67 Chevelle A-body cars, it's a necessity that we actually move the shifter 2 inches left and bring that profile down, because if we didn't, the shifter would end up going through the sheet metal. And in the case with Mike's car, he actually has a factory console, and he wanted to retain that. So he wanted to move the shifter more to the left. So in doing so, we actually take the time to add the side shifter to the transmission. This entails us CNC machining the side of the transmission so that we can add our cover, which is structurally important, and the top cover piece. We actually then went ahead and milled the back side of it. It gains us more clearance now that you can see it in the car, and you can see that it also goes through the original shift opening in the floor pan without any modification. So our goal is to make the transmission fit the car and not the other way around. We can show you more of this detail and fitment from the top side as we show the carpet and sheet metal. Again, this car was originally an automatic, so Mike has made a conversion for this car. He's actually putting a reproduction sheet metal part in. The previous one that was in there had been modified for the original, I say original, but the B body shifter, which is actually further back, not stock for this car. So there's some liberties were taken to it. So we're going to show how well this fits using the original 4-speed hump. Another commonly asked question that we get in the shop is, how do you measure a drive shaft, and whether you need a yoke or not? Now, in our kit with Mike here with the 67 Chevelle, we supplied a 31 spline slip yoke. They do come in different series. The series represent the size of the U-joint. Common size U-joints, 1310, 1330, and 1350 are most common. However, 1310 for small blocks and typically 1330 for big blocks is most likely. Now, we don't need to supply a slip yoke when we actually measure for a drive shaft, because the technique I'm about to show you will show taking it from the output shaft to our pinion here on the axle. So all you really need is one of our sheets which we can supply you. It tells you an illustration of what we're about to go through. So it represents from the output shaft to the pinion yoke universal center. And that would be up in here. And you can measure off the flat surface where the U-bolts go through. And that will allow you to measure off the center line of this rear universal. Now, if your car is equipped with a flange, which this one is not, you would measure off the machine surface of the flange, and that would establish the overall, and we can accommodate for the flange height and center point as part of our build. Make sure you get yourself a good quality tape measure, and some in cases where the drive shaft's a little longer, having an extra pair of hands doesn't hurt. So I'm going to ask Mike here to hold the tape measure to the output side of the shaft here, and make sure that you're measuring off of the shaft and not the seal or the housing case. And so that way we know exactly where we are with the housing or with the output shaft. Now this particular one here is measuring in at 59 7/8 to the flat surface of the pinion. And note that we're also at ride height. We do not want to have the axle hanging where we're on a 2-post lift and the suspension is in full droop. So we want to be at ride height to get the optimum measurement. The drive shaft will move about 1/4 inch in either direction with a passenger car and more so with trucks. But we want to measure to this distance. Now we're going to make a note of that in our measurement sheet that typically is dimension number 1. So we'll measure this without any subtraction or slip yoke in place. Now we're going to measure the rear U-joint on the pinion of the axle here. Now take note that there's a tab location on either side. This is important for the U-joint to keep from sliding off of center. Not all pinion yokes have a tab, but if yours has a tab, we're going to measure from the inside of each of these tabs. So taking a tape measure here, it's a little tight, so I'm going to try to get the end of this tape measure to go up against the side of the tab and making sure that I'm actually butted up against it. And so in this one here, the measurement is 3 1/4. 3 1/4 is a 1310 U-joint size. Had it been a 3 5/8, which is the next size up, that would be a 1330. And if it was also a 3 5/8, excuse me, it would be also a possibility of a 1350, but the difference would be in the measurement of the caps. So in this particular case, we're dealing with 1 1/16 cap, but if it had been 1 3/16 with a 3 5/8 going across, that would be a 1350 universal. So in this case, we're going to make note on the build sheet that dim 2 is 3 1/4, and our cap size is 1 1/16 from these 2 points here. So that will signify a 1310. With those 3 dimensions, we actually can build a drive shaft. Now, while we're here, it is also important to note that when you're putting your car together, you might want to measure off of a flat surface of your axle to make sure that we have similar angles to the transmission. So in this particular case, we have a 4-degree downward angle, and if we put an angle finder on here, we should be close to 4 degrees top to bottom. So let me just go ahead and check that. In this particular case, we are at 88.5, knowing that the lift is about 1/2 degree off. Now, granted, I am measuring the other angle, so we're about 2 degrees of angle on the differential. So what that means is if we go to measure the drive shaft at a later time, we can actually go ahead and measure off the drive shaft, measure off the pinion. We're looking for working angles. The end goal is to have matched angles front and back so that we have cancellation of the U-joints, so as it rotates over, there is not this whirling effect. What's also noted here is making sure these tabs are in good condition, as I mentioned earlier, because if one of them is chipped or missing, there's a possibility that drive shaft is going to be off center, and that will cause vibrational problems. Now, while we're talking about drive shafts, one of the common things that we get in the shop is, do I buy a steel drive shaft or do I buy an aluminum drive shaft? That is entirely up to you, but when you start spanning bigger distances like we are here, it's important to know the diameter of the drive shaft plays a factor. So if in a case like this one here, where the drive shaft's going to be 50-ish inches long, probably in the neighborhood of about 55 inches, that starts to get out there a little ways. And so you can get into what they call half and full critical speeds of the drive shaft. Now, if you're doing a 410 axle in the back, this drive shaft's going to be spinning quite hard at highway speeds. So it's critical that we get these dimensions correct and that we have a good centering. Now, when we build the drive shafts here and we get these measurements, we already know calculation-wise where that yoke's going to be exposed off of the end of the shaft. So that's why it's important that we measure off the output of the shaft, so that as we look at our slip yoke, we're wanting to make sure that we're not bottoming out inside the slip yoke, but at the same time not so far extended that the drive shaft is going to wobble around, that we're supporting this drive shaft or slip yoke correctly. Our goal is to get it to slide in as tight as we possibly can within comfort levels. We should be able to comfortably put the drive shaft in, or slip yoke into the drive shaft, and be able to pull it back out, and we would have typically about 3/4 of an inch between the seal and the shoulder of this yoke. That's where we're striving for on a passenger car. So again, we don't want it so far extended out that we're getting wobbling, because it's going to cause all kinds of grief and premature failure. And the other thing that we commonly get is, do I really need a new yoke if I already have the same size yoke? Yes, it's important to make sure that you're starting with a good quality yoke. We typically use a Spicer or Nyipco type slip yokes, and we want to make sure that the slip yoke is uniform in size. We have seen where brand new yokes are small in the front, large in the back, making them tapered. That causes problems with fitment. And also, if a slip yoke has been in service for a long time, they'll actually wear both on the splines and on the outside. You'll actually have a pocket. Sometimes you can see it, sometimes you can't. But it's important that when you slide the slip yoke in, it should be nice and tight. There should be no movement whatsoever.
Thanks for watching part 4 of this 5-part series, covering the complete installation of an MDL modified shift position TKX into a 67 Chevelle. Be sure to catch the rest of this series, available at youtube.com/Modern DriveLine Inc., where you'll find a playlist. Subscribe to our channel to be notified. If the next episode in this series is already available, a link will appear now. Thanks for making it modern.